Welcome to No Worries Finance. I'm JD, and we're here to talk about debt and money issues in the hopes that one day you can be debt-free and financially flexible. Because life is a lot more chill when you have no worries in your financial life. If you're interested in seeing more videos just like this one, then hit that subscribe button below and we can take this journey together. Today's video is about how I paid off over $90,000 of debt in under 6 years as a cashier. I reached a breaking point where I knew if I didn't change something, I was going to have to move back home with my mother. I'm grateful to have had that as an option, but it was an absolute last resort for me. I had made the decision a long time ago to move off on my own, and I was determined to stick it out. But now I was sitting with over $90,000 in debt and struggling to make rent. It was a wake-up call to me, and I said enough is enough. At the time, I was working a job as a cashier at a counter service restaurant. It paid minimum wage plus tips, and it was my only job, so I worked there full time. I never left that gig during my debt-free journey, and I never took on a second job. Despite that, I was able to make it work, and I wiped out my debt in just under 6 years. That means on average, I paid off just over $15,000 plus interest in debt per year. Pretty crazy. So how did I do it? First of all, I made the conscious decision that I would never take out another piece of debt. I had no intention of buying another car, and I wasn't going back to school, so this really just meant I was not allowed to use my credit cards anymore. Every purchase had to be made with my debit card or physical cash. If I couldn't make the purchase with either of those forms of payment, then I couldn't make the purchase. Once I had that framework in place, I now had to figure out how much debt I had. For the first time in my life, I sat down and wrote down all of my debts on one piece of paper. I wrote down what the debt was, how much money I owed, the interest rate, and the minimum payment I had to make each month. It took some time to look up all the numbers, and it was a pretty humbling experience. I kept that paper throughout my entire debt-free journey, and I crossed them off one at a time. Next, I had to make a budget. I had never made a budget before, so I downloaded a budget app on my phone and started listing out all my expenses. I went through my credit card statements and bank statements to figure out how much I was spending and on what. I organized all the expenses into neat categories, and by the time I was done, I was shocked. I had been spending a lot more money than I had realized. Every category of expenses was larger than I would have guessed. It was a real eye-opener for me. From there, I made a new budget for the next month and then planned out caps for each category, numbers that I thought were realistic, but that I was not allowed to go past. If I spent all of my grocery budget, then I wouldn't be able to spend more until next month. It forced me to think about every purchase I made. I also made some major cutbacks. I asked myself, what are the essentials? What can I not live without? And what are just luxuries? And I got really aggressive cutting out luxuries. I have to eat, get to work, and sleep. Everything else was negotiable and potentially cuttable. Next, I considered what I could sell to jumpstart my debt journey. I looked around my apartment for anything of value that I wasn't using anymore, and I tried to sell it. The big one here is I got rid of my car. Getting rid of my car was a huge decision, but it was a life-changing one. It not only jump-started my debt journey by giving me an influx of cash, but I also saved money every month by taking the bus to work or by walking. Lastly, I stayed consistent. I stayed determined. I got angry about the debt, and I refused to live my life with it any longer. I found new ways to spend my time that didn't cost money, and I made sacrifices. But it was all worth it because I now live with a comfortable and worry-free lifestyle that's rare amongst my friends and family.